Andre, and then we have Trent as well, who we watched his marvelous chicken video earlier, and he's here now with his lab. So Trent, did you want to say hello?
There we go.
There we go.
Talk about it here. I'm not sure how well you can hear me. I'm here in the chicken house.
I can hear you.
And good. I'm not too far from Keith. I'm maybe 20 minutes. I'm out of Standard. We're about an hour east of Calgary. And I'm a fourth generation chicken farmer. And I wanted to share some of my story here with you. I had some technical issues as well, and that's why I was unable to enter the meeting before the video was shared. So I'd open up the floor to any questions, and hopefully I can answer them or provide some clarification on where your food comes from. I'll just flip the camera over. You're probably more anxious to see the chickens than me, so I'll share the view of the barn here in real time.
Yeah, Trent, we're actually not getting your picture, and we're getting a little sign that your bandwidth is a little bit low. So
yeah, that's the problem. And
yeah, I'll let you work on that. And while you're trying to get that back, I'll let maybe Sarah can start us off with a couple of our questions from earlier in the day.
Perfect. So there's a few questions that have come up. Lots were answered throughout the day, which was great. This question, Megan, it might be up your alley, or there might be a couple other people. So the question was, are you familiar with Zoe Harcombe? Some folks on my social media platforms have been pushing this stuff lately, saying that animal protein, animal fat, etc. are healthy, and that saturated fats are healthier than unsaturated fats. It looks legit, but my spidey senses are tingling. Any insights?
Yes, yeah, thanks. I saw that question come in, and it deserves a little more attention than we were able to give this morning. So I'm happy to be back. It's like 5 p.m. here, getting dark. So it feels like forever ago we were talking this morning, but it's been such a great day. So in terms of animal protein and saturated fat, I'm not familiar with that specific person that they mentioned in their question and comment and exactly what they're saying and sharing. But the research is showing that the saturated fat maybe isn't as bad for our health as we once thought. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's better than the unsaturated fats. So for people who aren't familiar, unsaturated fats are things like, you get from omega-3s, from salmon and fish and avocado and olive oil, those kind of healthier fats. Definitely those are good for our health, and there's way more evidence for that. But what we found is some of the research from the 60s, 70s, and 80s was really demonizing saturated fat and butter and lard and those types of things. And what we're realizing is in the context of a healthy diet, and sometimes in the whole food form, they aren't as bad. So, I mean, we're not eating pounds of butter a day, I hope, but having it on your toast is totally okay. Having, your nice nutrient-dense red meat, which will have some saturated fat in it, is okay in moderation. So it's just kind of where the research, now that we have better tools, technologies, and techniques to study our diet and what's in it and how all that molecules work together, it's showing that it may not be as demonized as we once thought. But still, for sure, I know the research is stronger on unsaturated fat. So I'm always a proponent of that. But yeah, so hopefully that helps answer their question. And if they have any others about that, like, I'm happy to share posts. So this always gives me great ideas for what I'm going to post about next.
Perfect, thank you. The next question I think will be up Kevin and Modesta's expertise. Is the comment started with, I think GMOs overall are great and make agriculture more sustainable. However, I'm concerned a very tiny bit that they are leading to increased monocultures. Maybe not, maybe that would happen even without GMOs, but as GMO products are developed and become more desirable, is it reducing diversity?
I guess I can jump in unless Modesta wants to take that. It is true that you increase the monoculture nature of our farming in a way, because you rely on less wide genetics. to obtain the same products that grow in the field. However, that's changing with the age of genomics, that now we're starting to incorporate more genetics, wider crosses, more diversity in the genetics that are available. And this is working as we enter this genomics age where we can breed faster and breed for specific regions. So I think we're through that bottleneck. So get excited about the increased amount of genetic diversity that's starting to happen.
Can I just add to that? And as a farmer, it's really interesting, just relating to this past question and the question before that, talking about unsaturated fats. If it wasn't for what I guess is labeled as a GMO, but like we grow, Alberta grows a lot of canola, and actually there's actually been very specific brands of canola that actually have higher unsaturated fats in it. So it's improved how we can eat. And basically, when we talk about, like say even the olive oils, there's a lot of carbon being burnt importing those oils to Canada, where, we don't necessarily need to import quite as much. So, it's actually helping the environment quite a bit by using GMOs or basically by breeding plants faster.
Excellent, thank you. Those are both, I think that really helps. Before I do the next question, I was just seeing that it looks like Trent's back in his into the chicken barns right now. Trent, do you want to tell us what we're looking at right now? We can maybe check that out while you're live.
Sure. What I've done here in the barn is to facilitate this video, I've turned the lights up. So I mentioned in the video, photo period, light intensity, duration, everything is a very big stimulus to the behaviors of chickens. And earlier when I did turn the lights on before I started connecting here, the activity in the barn was pretty low. And then as soon as I turned the lights on, they woke up, got excited. Everybody hammered the water lines, the feed lines. And now we're just seeing a bit of a delay in that activity, and a few more chickens getting up and meeting their dietary needs, I guess. They're getting their TV dinners in every single bite that they eat, balanced nutrition and drinking some water and seeing some bird behavior. They're playing and resting and some dust baths, whatnot. They're just being chickens. Hopefully everybody can catch what's going on in the barn here. I'm not sure what else to say. I'll give you some dimensions here just to help you understand what you're looking at. So if you can see the end of the barn, that's 200 feet, and I'm in the middle of the barn.
Well,
so the barn here is 400 feet.
We lost your video.
Sorry. Shoot.
Yeah. When I see it come back up, we'll come back, okay?
Okay. I haven't moved. We'll just wait here for you guys.
Awesome. Oh, rural internet is great. Okay, this was a question for our vets. When we were talking earlier about estrogen and growth hormone implants in cattle, there was a question about estrogen, and are they the same types of estrogen, and does this matter?
I could take that. Kathleen can probably add in after if she'd like. Yeah, they're slightly different, right? As a chemical compound, as a hormone. So they're phytoestrogens. So those are estrogens for plants. So it's basically the same thing, but the plant estrogens versus the animal estrogens. So they're very, very similar. But yeah, I can sure make that clear. But it's still the amounts of them is the. And again, we're not saying they're wrong in the other food groups. We're just saying that the cattle industry in particular has been kind of targeted for these hormones in the beef type of thing, steroids in the beef. There we go. Chicken barn's back.
Nothing to add to that other than to say, like, for the hens that are referenced there, it's naturally occurring. There's nothing that's done from an additive or dietary standpoint. Poultry is never given hormones. So that's, a natural physiologic occurrence.
And hence the comparison. It is, again, it isn't bad. It's just that's the way it is naturally. And if you want me to show you estrogens, I'll start talking about pregnant women, and the nanograms will go through the roof, right? So, and that's all good too. Some would argue otherwise, but that's a good thing.
Perfect. All right. Looks like we can see the chicken barn for a minute here, Trent. So I think we've all been enjoying the video when it comes back for us here, but it looks like you've got quite the barn there right now.
Yeah, thanks. There must be some internet throttling or management by my provider here. So I'm glad everybody can see it again, and I can share part of what I do on my life every day here to help feed everybody and make some money and provide a lifestyle for myself and my family.
Perfect. Excellent. All right. The next question, and I think this is for almost anybody in the group could answer this. To be a part of tech and innovations in agriculture, what does a high school student need to pursue for post-secondary?
I think you could probably just about any degree or diploma. Obviously, specifically anything in the science category would be wonderful. But you know what, we're just to carry on with that, we are looking and we are in short need of everybody, that whether it's science or business or whatever. But I'd definitely look at the science side of things first.
Yeah, I guess as an overall arching thing, we could say matriculation, right? Again, the sciences and all the other subjects that go with that, biologies and that sort of thing would lead you to that. But they'd probably want to check out at whatever field they want to get into, the specific prerequisites to get into university ahead of time.
I'd add to that. I mean, the STEM is obviously there, but we see a lot of challenges in even folks with business degrees and getting folks in that are interested in ag. Some other industries will pay more, but there's cost to that as well. And so I don't know that there's a degree out there that doesn't touch on farming, from science to business to, there's a need for it all right now to grow that sector.
I think that the agriculture programs are, continually evolving to take into account new technological advances and sort of those newer innovations in agriculture. So, any of the like the U of A program or the college programs, what we've got in the province here. But I think that those programs are so up to date that they're good opportunities for post-secondary for students.
Excellent. The last question.
I think hello. When we don't really know what
Oh, it's cutting out, Trent. Do you want to
be tomorrow? But I think something that's has been common through the years, and I see this through my work with human relations. Young kids need to get out there and know how to work with people, deal with them. So I think the answer for me to that student that has a question is do things you're uncomfortable with, learn how to communicate with people, and don't be afraid to say, yeah, I can do that.
Perfect, thank you.
Did that make sense?
That's great. Did anyone else want to add to that before I keep going?
Well, I wanted to add that in addition to the major science and STEM courses, that science communication could also be an option. It's becoming more important in so many industries, both private and public research institutes. So someone who wants to be a communicator could also go in the line of science communication. And there are broad topics and broad areas a student can engage in when studying science communication. So that could be also another opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I want to add to just a little bit from my experience is I, in high school, 100% thought I was going to become a medical doctor. So went to and applied on all the programs that were anything health sciences related in Ontario, and was focusing on, I actually went to Guelph for a pre-med program. They have a biomedical sciences. And I thought for sure I'm going to be a doctor. So I am a doctor, just a different kind. And by being in Guelph and being exposed to that agriculture community and a bit of a rural setting, and of course, Guelph's known for its agriculture program, that is what led me to realizing how my degree and interest in human health and nutrition still ties back to the farm, and then getting exposed to that science communication. So I think if you think you might be interested in something agriculture, get out there, get exposed to it, talk to people, or go to a university where there might be a bit of that agriculture influence. So you could start in a science program or business or human resources or something and see how that relates and how that might be a career path. Because like we said, there's huge labor shortages across the board in agriculture. So we just need more people to realize how cool of a sector and career it could be.
Excellent. All right.
Thanks, Sarah. This might be actually a good spot for me to jump in just when we're talking about the whole career piece. Just one of our other programs that I wanted to let you know about that we are going to be running as Ag in the Classroom Alberta. There is a program called Gen Ag that is a really engaging for high school students. If you think that they might be interested in learning more about agricultural careers. The purpose of Gen Ag is to get the students to work collaboratively to create a marketing campaign specifically about all the different agriculture, I can't talk anymore, the day's almost over, agriculture careers. So there'll be information about that program coming out as well for you. Keep an eye out if you think that might be beneficial for your students.
All right, the last question was about accessing presenter videos. So I am recording all of this all day. It probably takes some time in the next couple days for us to get this all downloaded and then put up so that everyone will have access, and Nancy will share that link when we have it. That's all I have for questions through the chat box. Did anyone else have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself right now if you just want to ask your question, or if you want to type it in and I can read it, that's fine.
We're good. Even on our panel, if you have any conversation you'd like to have together, that's great too. See anything else coming in? All right.
I have a question for Keith. Hey Keith, what do you do for water treatment, water sanitation? What kind of technologies do you use to make sure you have the proper balance of solids and pH and whatnot in the water for the best environment for your shrimp?
For sure. So it's 17 parts per thousand salt water, so it's halfway between freshwater and salt water. And so we have a number of we take out the nitrogen. So there's a bunch of chemistry to get rid of the nitrogen out of the system, and that's the biggest the biggest thing that'll kill the shrimp. Is higher nitrogen in the water, and then we have to add oxygen, take care of the solids, and then put the water back. So, and then we have to blow off the CO2 that's in there as well. So, there's about 4 or 5 steps in that process to get the water quality where you want it. And aquaculture is more of a water treatment business than it is a livestock business, because it's all about water quality. You know, if you don't get the water quality right, then the shrimp won't grow and they won't survive. So we spend a lot of time and effort there.
Sure. Do you use any UV or ozone to help with those processes?
Ozone, yeah. UV doesn't really work because of the particulate matter in the water. It's corrosion.
Perfect. Thanks.
Of course.
Perfect.
Okay.
Anything else anyone has any questions about, or wants, like Nancy said, anyone in the panel group want to have any other comments they want to share?
There's a question here from Rupa. Our students are quite privileged as compared to others around the world, and sometimes it is quite challenging to explain this to the students. Any suggestions of how to convey those issues of inequity? That's a big one. Modesta might.
Well,
maybe-
yeah, I guess I can come in now. I'm sorry, I'm using my phone. That's why I can't turn on my video because network
Okay.
is bad. So, yeah, it's really a big, a serious question about inequity. But I don't think there is a one size fits all approach of communicating this, but it depends on the topic at hand. So, I'll just say maybe the best thing is to, encourage them to read books and learn from other people's experiences. There are so many students that are probably coming from that part of the world. So it's more like being open to hearing about their experiences and learning from them. Then maybe also encourage them to maybe include content or materials that could also include, like, for example, you can talk about maybe agriculture in a developing world, and maybe you could invite a speaker from a developing country to come and give his or her perspective. So it's just using, there are so many approaches that can be used, but it depends on the topic, and the environment also matters. So I guess it's just opening up to hearing more from others and sharing information.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think if I just jump in, thinking back to my talk and some of my experience and research, is that a lot of the technologies for agriculture, such as GMOs, right? We've talked about how some of those are for the benefit and for developing countries, and whether they're in practice or being used or not yet. Might be because of our privilege and some of the anti-GMO or activist campaigns that prevent them from being able to be used. And as well, I think I talked to in my discussion about the dirty dozen list and things that scare consumers away from the use of pesticides in our agriculture community. Again, they affect those who are lower socioeconomic status, and so those who don't have the resources that we have. So depending on the conversation you're having, I think there's a lot of topics that you can touch on, like how technology is a lot of times to benefit certain populations. Some of the fear mongering advertising, it's called, the free from, that negatively impacts the health and availability of food for people who are not as fortunate. So you can kind of pick a bit of the topics you're discussing, but there's negative consequences always to a lot of what we're privileged to have the choice to be able to do. So maybe that gives a little bit of some ways to describe that, because I know as a teenager, for sure, I didn't realize just how privileged we are until we start having these discussions.
Perfect, thank you. We did get another question in. How do you address personal bias in your own communication, especially as an expert in the community?
So
I can jump in there. For me, it's about listening first, because if you are if you're listening, then you're not putting in your bias. And that idea of listening to others and trying to understand where they're coming from gives you that empathy. Listening and putting yourself in their shoes, that automatically extinguishes your bias, at least in initiating a conversation.
And I would echo that, and I'm just watching Kevin right now, and kind of a little envious of where he's sitting. We got a few feet of snow where I'm at, so appreciate the climate in Florida there. But yeah, your own personal bias, I guess I don't think anybody today had any for sake of that. But I think and I know in the veterinary field anyway, we try to be objective in everything we do. And I think it's all about the science to me. I mean, you've got usually support on what you're, if I'm arguing, there's a big reason why I do it. And it's usually the science behind it is pretty solid. I mean, there's a lot of gray things we talk about for sure, but science will sort that out eventually in my eyes. So.
That's awesome. I think that's a great place to leave it off today. I think it kind of brought us full circle from where we started off this morning, talking about that critical ideas with science literacy. So before we sign off, I just want to say